So today we got a inflation read, and I can just tell you guys it's not good. I think you already know this stuff, but I do want to go to the details of it because it does matter. And as I always say, follow the money. So this was the headlines from CNBC. Trump's tariffs are slowly finding their way into consumer prices. And I'm sure you guys are thinking, like, slowly, what are you talking about? I already see the tariffs coming in. And in fact, many people in our community have been saying, you order something online, you get slapped with this crazy tax and you got to pay it. I'm sure you guys know this stuff, or you go to the store, you're already seeing prices going up. But the national data is starting to catch up to what you're seeing on the ground. There's another headline. U.S. inflation, consumer inflation that is, accelerates. Weekly jobless claims approach 4-year high. And so what you're seeing in real time under the Trump economy is families are getting hit with two different things, right? You're getting hit with higher prices and you're getting hit with less opportunity or less jobs, or another way you could say it is higher unemployment, right? It's not good. The particular numbers in terms of inflation, the CPI read today was that headline inflation's at 2.9, core inflation's at 3.1, depending on if you want to count food and energy or not. So basically right around 3, right? You can see it. The Fed has said all along that they want inflation to be at 2%, and they're do their policy, according to that. Trump just always wants the Fed to cut rates no matter what. And this is the dilemma that the Fed's going to be in is, are we more concerned about inflation, or are we more concerned about, growth, unemployment, jobless claims, these kind of things? And it is a real tough bind because either way that they go, you're going to have, one of these two problems. Let me show you guys this chart also. Just to give you a sense, it says annual price changes for consumers. The inflation year over year in August. So you got housing going up, medical care going up, food and beverages going up. You guys know this stuff already. But this chart doesn't even tell you the full story, because I've been seeing stories where people are struggling with back to school shopping because clothes are expensive. School supplies are expensive. And I guess schools are giving a list of all the stuff that people have to buy. For school supplies for their kids. And these days, like, schools will have these, what do you want to call, like fund drives, I guess you could say, to where if a family can't afford school supplies, they go to these things and hopefully can get support there. It's even so bad to where, like, if you borrow a pencil from the school, you got to sign it out, check it out because you're worried about kids stealing pencils. No, seriously, because, like, this stuff is expensive. And it's just, this shows you, like, the kind of environment that we're in. And then you get the headlines that, again, jobless claims are like at 4-year highs. So what we're talking about here, guys, is likely stagflation. If you want to talk about recession, you can, but just talk about this stuff in terms of, people probably remember this stuff if you lived through the 70s and 80s, and we have a lot of people in our community that have, of an older community, and you remember this stuff. It gets really ugly, right? Like, inflation spiraling out of control, unemployment and spiraling out of control. And it's like, how can we solve these things? Then you got this, Kroger just came out with an earnings report today. The CEO is basically saying that Kroger sales are doing okay because more people are eating meals at home. And the quotes were that people are feeling stressed about the economy and doing things to save money, which I'm sure you all already know this stuff. But again, I just wanted to reiterate it, because sometimes, when you get gaslit all the time by, say, Fox News or Trump's or whatever, you just feel like, am I going crazy? And it's like, no, you're not. Stuff costs more. Kroger also said that people are using more coupons. They're going to the store more often, but they're buying less stuff on each visit. And then when they do go to the store, they're buying, no longer the name brands anymore, more like those generic brands. On top of that, we have some news about Social Security. For those of you who are on Social Security, and I know a lot of people in our community are, they're calculating a possible COLA increase for next year, so cost of living adjustment, and the estimate right now is 2.8%. Okay, so if inflation's at 2.9 and the COLA adjustment's 2.8, you can already tell Social Security is not even going to be keeping up with inflation. It is a real worry. So for the average person, average Social Security is maybe like $1,800 a month. 2.8%, you're looking at maybe like another $50 a month, which isn't a lot of help. And under the Trump economy, I know it's not happy to talk about this stuff, but I just want to tell you what to expect. But I think a lot of people out there aren't necessarily counting on Social Security. If you're not already collecting, it was like 1 out of 3 people don't. Don't expect it to be around. You can count me in one of those people. I mean, obviously, you want the system to survive, and just my opinion on it, it may not necessarily be in the same form in the future as it is today. They may have to raise retirement age, cut benefits, these kind of things. And, normally, because I like to talk about economic news and business stuff with you guys, normally at this time of year, we would be talking about, hey, there's a new Apple iPhone out, and like, look at all this, stuff like that. Are you going to get one, not get one? And it's like, that's barely even a story these days because people already decided they're not getting one. I've already decided I'm not getting one. And it doesn't matter, what the price is. Well, okay, I'll be honest. If it's going to come in at like $10, I'll get one, but it's not going to come in $10. I mean, it was funny. I was reading through the Apple news, and they were already kind of like throwing out there to try to get people used to thinking about getting a, $2,000 iPhone one day, but it's like, come on. And then you have something like this. My income is not enough. I'm a single parent in my 50s. Should I add my kids 23 and 29 to my mortgage application? And when you see these kind of stories, because I go through all this stuff every day and share with you, I mean, it tells you how people are feeling on the ground. And so that's why it's frustrating for me out there whenever I see, Trump and all his people act like everyone's winning and you're all doing great, when the numbers and the anecdotal stories that you hear from people just doesn't match that. Before I was hearing about kids moving in with parents because there aren't enough opportunities out there. And now you're seeing these kind of stories to where like parents are struggling and now they're asking kids for help, and just basically everyone's having a tough time, to be frank. The numbers just came out on mortgage payments. They are $2,200 about for the median mortgage payment that people are paying. Rents are going up. I think it was like 4%, but it obviously depends on what market that you're in. So if you tend to be in the Northeast or maybe West Coast, prices are going to be higher. I was looking at some of the numbers. So you could be looking at like a monthly cost of, mortgage house, and you got insurance and your HOA fees, all that stuff. Could be a median cost of like $3,000 a month. So it can be really, really quite high. And then I was looking at some of the data that was reported. It was the if you're renting, they were saying a bunch of apartments these days are throwing on a bunch of extra fees and raising those fees up in price. So, this is the kind of stuff that everyone faces all the time. And you may not necessarily have discussions of like the larger economic picture. And that's why I like to talk with you guys about this in our community. I was looking over at
Hilda E. Taylor. Lieutenant Colonel Kip P. Taylor, United States Army. Leonard E. Taylor.
I wish it was a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. What a big player. What a player. So if you have that much muscle, you have to hit the ball first. A fantastic player. I appreciate that. Unbelievable player. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great to know you. Thank you.
So that was Trump doing, all the crazy stuff that Trump does on a daily basis, but that's who he is. And unfortunately, the violence is escalating in USA. 8 historically black colleges and universities locked down over potential threats. And basically just, it's not a good situation. It's all I can say. And, there's a real worry in the USA these days that the country's spiraling into vision that is like a civil war, just to be perfectly frank. People asked, and I was reading your comments earlier, is like, why if the possible shooter, say the Charlie Kirk situation, appears to be white, but we don't know for sure, but just appears to be. Why would there be threats at historically black colleges right now? And I mean, the best way to describe it is just when economic times go really bad, and when the Trump policies cause people to struggle more, or when his rhetoric and the things that they do cause more divisions and just more hardships by regular people, people then look for someone to blame. They are, more likely to be, I guess you could call it volatile, or I don't know what to say, violent. It's hard to answer the question, like why would anyone threaten anyone? I'm just saying, because I don't like to see that any colleges go on lockdown due to threats, and it's multiple. Like I said, it was like 8 historically black colleges, and so I know times are really tough right now as costs go up, job opportunities go down, and effectively the political rhetoric and just negativity in USA is spiraling out of control. And I don't like to see these campus lockdowns. I don't think any of us do. And so, number one, what we need to be talking about and doing right now is getting rid of Trump's tariffs, for reals. That is causing so much pain out there. And this is a self-inflicted wound that Trump is putting on the U.S. and everyone around the world. So one, we got to get rid of the tariffs. And then two, we got to figure out, okay, how can we build a system in USA that is more supportive of regular people, be it supporting people with education, healthcare, transportation. These are just like basic things to keep your society functioning. And when you put these things in place, it quells a lot of the other problems out there, right? So for example, Trump is always like, oh, we got to, stop the fentanyl. It's all the fentanyl, right? And I don't disagree. I think I understand that. But if you create more economic opportunities for people, if you create a more sustainable society that supports people, then less people are less likely to want to seek escape, which is essentially what that kind of stuff is, right? And so that's why, I think at the end of the day, regular people just want to, put food on the table, have a job, have a good place for their kids to go to school and be safe. I think these are basic things and the things that we should be talking about on a daily basis. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. Please be careful out there, and I'll catch you all in the next video.